Hi, Max Wright here from Success Council, and I'm here with Dan Larimer and Brian Page from BitShares. We're going to find out a little bit more about that, because this is one of the really exciting things going on in this space. So, Brian, we might start with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a little bit of a catch-up about what BitShares is?
Absolutely. Well, BitShares are digital shares that are traded person to person on the internet. It's based on the same technology that's behind Bitcoin, which is used as a digital currency that's traded around the world, person to person, with no central authority and no one to actually trust. It's a totally new technology. We're trying to take that technology and apply it to essentially shares of companies.
Okay, and this is a concept that's been thought about since Bitcoin was invented, because the underlying technology beneath Bitcoin is the blockchain.
Absolutely.
And so BitShares is taking the blockchain technology and applying it to other areas. So Bitcoin applied the blockchain technology to currency, and now you guys are looking at taking it to other places.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin is huge right now. It's in the news. Everybody's talking about it. It's becoming more mainstream and known as a household idea. But it can be used in many technologies and many industries, about a dozen different industries right now. So we look at Bitcoin as what really makes it revolutionary is the idea of open ledger, where everybody can see what's going on, that there's this decentralized technology that's behind it all. So we're going to, Dan's going to talk about a little bit about the specifics of how it works.
Yeah, cool. And so, Dan, this is your brainchild, is that fair to say?
Yes. I came up with the idea of decentralized autonomous companies.
Yeah, okay.
So,
and it's your brainchild, but it's also, you're the chief coder, is that correct?
Yes, I'm a software engineer, first and foremost, and then self-taught economist, and I'm combining my knowledge of economics with software, along with my philosophy on life, to create a product I hope is going to change the world.
Perfect. So why don't you give us your vision for what you want BitShares to become and everything around that?
All right, well, what BitShares is, it's a new perspective on Bitcoin and on how the free market can create companies. If you view Bitcoin as a company, it's a lot easier to explain why it has value and how it's used. So if you got together with a bunch of friends and you want to start a business, you'd allocate shares, and you have to agree how you're going to, who owns what. And if you want to sell your shares to someone, you have some way of tracking it. Bitcoin is a way of tracking who owns what in the company. Now, what Bitcoin's doing is they're marketing their shares as money.
Right.
You can use anything as money. Gold can be used as money. It does not cease to be a metal. Bitcoin, it's shares that are used as money. Just because you call it money, they don't cease to be shares. So the reason I do this is because it gives us a whole new way of understanding how Bitcoin works and how it could work better. Because if you analyze Bitcoin, you realize it's actually operating at $1 billion a year loss. So what I like to tell people is we take Bitcoin and we make it profitable.
So explain the loss aspect there. You're talking about the computational power, the electricity costs, and the mining.
Yes.
And that's just, it goes.
Yes. So with Bitcoin as a company, it provides a service that allows people to transfer shares. And it charges transaction fees. Sometimes those fees are zero. But it has to pay for security. The security guards who make sure that the transaction ledger is secure and who sign off on what goes in the transaction ledger. And the way Bitcoin does it is it puts a huge amount of work into building a wall. Whoever builds the strongest wall around it, that's the most secure one. But any attacker can come along and do more work, and now, so it's always a race, right? I got a knife, you got a knife. I got a gun, you got a gun. I got a tank, you got a tank. You're never really secure because someone else can always build a bigger gun.
Okay, so just the analogy there is, so the mining people, they're coming out with new and efficient miners, these ASIC machines. Yep. They're mining faster and faster and faster, and it's an arms race, right, to get the most powerful mining equipment out there.
In other words, the security of Bitcoin is directly related to how much you spend on it. Right? You might be able to buy more for your money, but your security is tied to the amount you spend on it. So,
now, not as an individual, but as a group.
As a company.
As a Bitcoin company, right.
Yeah, right. So the security of the ledger is proportional. So each and every year, Bitcoin is spending $500 million to $1 billion, depending on the market cap, on securing the blockchain. And it's funding this by debasing the shareholders. It's issuing new shares. Right. Well, if this was a company on Wall Street and they were paying their employees with shares, they'd be writing that off as an expense. And so the balance sheet of Bitcoin is in the red.
Okay.
So as a stock, it's like the early internet companies. I've got this website, it's really cool, I got a multi-billion-dollar market cap, I'm losing money every year, and there's no hope for me to ever make money.
Okay.
And what I like to tell people is if you want to remove the subsidy on Bitcoin from the shareholders in the long term, you've got to collect enough money in transaction fees to pay for the same level of security you have today. Well, if you were paying transaction fees that equal to security, you'd be paying $3 a transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain. But that right now is being subsidized by the shareholders. So we take the concept and we make Bitcoin profitable because we eliminate the need to do mining. So I would like to take an analogy one step further and look at, well, if Bitcoin has shares, the shareholders have no voting rights. They've got this hash power, this mining power, that's the voting rights. So you've separated control capital shares from voting shares. And that results in centralization. So we take that and we return the voting rights to the shareholders. The shareholders vote on the best transaction ledger. And once you have 51% of the shareholders confirming the transaction ledger, it's irreversible. It's more secure, infinitely so, than Bitcoin ever could be. Not only that, it can operate faster and cheaper.
And this is called proof of stake. Is that what you're talking about?
This is called proof of stake, yes. Only this is different than a lot of other proof of stake systems. Because
how's it different?
in other proof of stake systems, you either have to have your computer online or it's a hybrid mining system, which means only a small percentage of the shareholders are participating in securing of the network. What we've done is we've allowed the shareholders to appoint 100 representatives, or kind of like a board of directors, that take turns producing the blocks. And this is all done just like a company would be governed, except their power being on the board is no different. Can be taken away from them if they don't do their job, and it's not arbitrary. The only thing they can do is include a transaction or not. If you include transactions, you get paid. If you don't, you get fired. And so the system is much more secure, much faster, can be as fast as Ripple, but more decentralized than Ripple. And I want to redefine what it means to be decentralized, because a lot of people have a lot of funny ideas, or they compared every system to some impossible standard. I define decentralized as your control is proportional to your ownership. And to the extent that is true, you've reached perfect decentralization. So,
something about what we envision for the future. Right now you have Bitcoin and you have all these altcoins. So you have hundreds of them, possibly more. All these altcoins, they try to serve different functions, but essentially they're tokens and an idea. Most or almost all of them are not profitable, don't have any revenues. We envision a future where there's hundreds or thousands of companies, all that are issuing shares in their profitable business models. Those profits are distributed as dividends to the shareholders, and it's all powered by BitShares. Same way Intel Inside powers, the devices that you use. So someone could come along with a business model and promote and market their business and use our technologies to issue shares, to crowdfund capital, and actually deliver the profits to the shareholders. So it's redefining and reinventing the very idea of shares in companies.
Okay.
I'd like to step back a little bit, because I realize we got in some of the weeds of decentralization and how things work. From a bigger picture, once you have the model of a company and it's entirely decentralized, what kind of business models can you implement under that? After all, a bank is just a company. And a bank does some very specific things. They take collateral and they issue banknotes. And then the banknotes circulate as money. Well, I can do that on a blockchain. And as long as the collateral is shares in the bank, the blockchain's entirely sovereign on it. You don't need to worry about governments to foreclose on houses, or some safe to hold the gold, because your collateral is all on the blockchain. So what this allows us to do is to create BitUSD, BitGold, or BitSilver. It's got all the properties of Bitcoin, except the price stability of the dollar, gold, or silver, pegged to those assets. And that is just one business model out of many. We can implement decentralized DNS that eliminates domain name squatting.
can we just back up a second? I just want to mention this. So this decentralized autonomous corporation company. Okay, the DAX for short.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so this is effectively, it's like it's a company that lives in the computing cloud, right?
Yes.
And it has shareholders, and it is effectively code, and it has and it performs some function.
Yes.
And people there'll be customers of this company who will pay fees or whatever for some service back that this program that lives in the cloud will do. And the shareholders will receive those profits as distributed by the code.
Yes.
So it becomes a trustless environment for the operations of things.
I would say you just nailed the description perfectly. The key thing is that these are companies that can't have assets and can't have liabilities, yet they perform a service.
Okay.
And they generate revenue performing this service, and that's why they have value.
So give me the most simplest example of this to get my head around. I think the lottery example is actually a good one.
I'll give you an example. Actually, BitShares music. So imagine owning shares in a song rather than copies of a song. So before Justin Bieber was Justin Bieber, he was on YouTube. You saw him, you're a fan. You believed in his song, you were a fan of his. You could actually buy shares in that song, promote it, and as he becomes more popular, you actually could make money. So, and also the artist could as well by issuing shares in any particular song.
So he, for example, he could have released the ownership of that song in a blockchain, and he could have sold shares in it. It was his, so people buy it. Now you've got a group that collectively own it. So now all these shareholders are incentivized to share this song, share it with their friends.
And for the first time, they can make money listening to and promoting songs of that they're fans of.
Okay.
Which you can't do right now. You could buy a song on iTunes, but you're not going to make any money by promoting it to someone else. And you could in this way. So the artist has more control, and not only that, it makes everybody promoting their favorite artist. So this is called BitShares Music. Dan can talk about this.
I'd like to comment on that a little bit. Of course. BitShares Music is a hybrid model because you're combining real-world stuff with shares. But you suggested a purely decentralized model, the Lotto one, is the simplest possible example.
Right.
And this is an example of how does a lottery company work. It sells lottery tickets, generates revenue, puts some of the revenue in a pot for the prize, keeps the rest as profit or marketing the lottery.
Yep.
Or you can implement that exact same logic. You sell lottery tickets, and how do you sell them? For shares in the company. You take some of those shares, you put in the pot, the rest are paid as dividends. And then the shareholders go out and they market the lottery. And you can do all kinds of things. You can even turn it into a charity where a portion of the ticket sales is given to charity. So that is the simplest possible DAC. That
could all be done free of trust on a blockchain, and even the winner is selected by the software, by the program. So there is no human that can interact with it. Once that software is released, no one can go in there and manipulate it.
Yeah,
so you can actually trust it.
That's the key to that. That's the one, the example that makes the most amount of sense in my head.
Yeah.
So you're trusting a code, like whereas with current lotteries now, there are regulators, and you make sure this, and who knows whether the people are taking, if they actually give away 87% of the pot, if that's what they promised to do.
Yeah.
You're talking about there can be this computer program that's open source, every single person can see, and you're buying shares in that. Once all those shares are allocated, then you, or depending on how the rules of that program are written, but it says, okay, shareholders take this much, and it distributes the profits to all the shareholders. And the winner of the thinger, it takes this much, and it's completely transparent, guaranteed, trustless, no need to trust regulators, no need to trust. And it's just a program that's operating in the cloud. That is the really simple, crystal clear example. I love that one.
And once it's released, okay, so there's no one to trust, not even the us, who the ones that are writing the software. Once it's released, it exists on its own. It's literally a company that is. The company is a loose term to describe what it is, but essentially it's a company that's programmed to make a profit.
Yes.
And this is the first time in history that technology would allow something like that to even exist. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's an example, but there's other things that are also relatively easy to understand.
Yep.
Domain names, what are they selling? A name. Well, that's no different than a lottery ticket.
Yep.
And you can either sell them for a fixed price and get a lot of squatting, or you can sell them at auction. And
so let's back up this for a second here. So just because we were talking about like internet architecture here, so let's slow it down a touch. So right now there's this organization that you're allowed to go and buy domains, and they're registered. And so if you own a domain then you can point that domain to your little box sitting in a server farm somewhere via an IP address or a DNS, actually.
Right.
So now there's again, there are people who are who sit on top of this and administer it.
Yes.
And now one of the challenges with this is that, for example, they have to comply with regulations and laws and different things all over the world. If you ran afoul of a government, let's say you were living in some horrible country where the government was persecuting whatever, and the government said, okay, give me that domain back, seize their assets, and the government can steal that person's assets, well, now you are victim to that theft, effectively, from that government.
Yeah.
What the blockchain can do, let's take a little baby step here, and we'll stop off at Namecoin.
Okay.
So what Namecoin tried to do is to put that registry in a blockchain. So now it's a decentralized registry operating in the cloud. Once you buy a domain name, the only person who can control where that points to, what server it points to, that is controlled by the person with the private key.
Yes.
Governments, malicious actors, thieves, men with guns can't do anything that's cryptographically sound. So you've taken that concept and you believe there's a little bit of there's a better way to do it via an auction system, yeah?
Where there's two things. With Namecoin, they're relying on Bitcoin proof of work, so it's got the same security model and efficiencies as Bitcoin does. So it's not profitable. It's not run for profit. And then the other is it hasn't solved the economic problem of squatting. Squatting is a economic phenomena that is the result of price fixing. When you call all land the same price, people are going to buy it all up and then auction off the expensive, or sell the expensive ones at a high price.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, all the other lots are unavailable.
Right.
So what we did is we said, well, if you want to buy a name, you can buy it, but it goes up for auction. Highest bidder gets it, and the proceeds of the auction go to the shareholders.
Right, and it's the shareholders who are motivated to run the mining operation that supports this.
There is no mining operation.
Okay.
What they're motivated to do is bid up the prices to the highest without winning.
Okay, I see.
Right?
So, but what's the computational power that secures this network?
It's not secured by computational power. It's secured by votes of the shareholders. Automatic votes from their computers when they make their regular transactions.
So, I'm a little bit lost there, and I can't think of the question to ask.
Well, the same way the current stocks of companies are not secured by computational power. The
goal here with all blockchain technology is to reach a global consensus that everyone can agree is true.
Yes.
So we say if 51% of the shareholders agree this is the transaction ledger, that's it, it can't be changed, and we've got their signature on it. And so we're using that model to reach consensus. So every time you make a transaction, oh, look, he placed a bid. Everyone signs off on it. And if the shareholders sign off on it, then it's more secure than any amount of proof of work because you have to get everyone to collude to change it. And no one's going to collude because everyone's got financial interest in establishing what actually happened.
Okay, so the registry, it exists in a blockchain?
Yes.
Okay. That blockchain is in the cloud. There are many computers who have access to it. They can any computer can have access to it. It's in the cloud. In terms of recording a transaction, how is that achieved without mining?
You broadcast the transaction,
yes,
and then the shareholders have selected a large number of people, 100 people or so, to take turns taking the transactions that are broadcast, producing a block, adding it to the blockchain, one at a time. Okay. Right? When they add it to the blockchain, they sign it, and the person who adds it and signs it was elected by the shareholders on an ongoing, continuous basis to perform that job. And after they sign it, it can't be changed. And after 100 blocks, every single shareholder has been represented. And you can do these blocks much faster than Bitcoin, which is every 10 minutes. We can do this every 15 seconds. So in 15 minutes or so, everyone is signed off on your transaction. Okay. Right? And it's irreversible.
Okay, so with I'm thinking of Bitcoin, I'm thinking about the 51% attack.
Right.
So now we're talking about 100 elected ledger people who manage the ledger. Why is that blockchain not susceptible to a 51% attack?
You'd have to control 51% of the shares in the company. And as anyone knows, if someone in the company has 51%, they are dictator.
Right.
It doesn't matter what company. Minority shareholders have very few rights. The difference is the amount of power that someone has under our system is to include a transaction or not. They can't make arbitrary decisions. And if someone does get 51%, they're heavily invested. They don't want to destroy the value of their investment, because if they do it, someone can just start a new company without them. There's no barriers to entry. So market forces, the free market's the ultimate form of decentralization. And any barriers to entry result in centralization. So what we're doing is we eliminate the barriers to entry, and mining is a barrier to entry. So we eliminate that barrier to entry, and we give the shareholders an ability to observe what their elected representatives are doing. And if they stop including transactions like they're supposed to, they get fired within 24 hours.
Okay, so now a shareholder would be a domain name owner.
Well, no, a domain name owner is using the system. They're the customer.
Okay.
The shareholder would be the one who owns the company that's selling the names.
Understood. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So their demonstration of value to their customers is that it's a secure network, and so they're motivated to hire, fire, whatever, the people who are there to secure that.
Right. It would work just like Bitcoin.
And the magic is the reason why it's censorship resistant, or resistant to, say, that in the example before of the tyrant who said, that's a political dissident, go and seize their assets, is because this is decentralized. People, who knows where these shareholders are? Where are they at?
These systems work because of a concept called consensus. We've defined the rules in advance, and we can all agree that we're going to follow these rules, and then the software enforces the rules.
Right.
So no one can come along and say, hey, I want to break the rule here so that I can seize your domain name. The whole world's going to ignore it. And everyone can view the transaction history, view what went on, and know unambiguously what the answer is, that you own this domain.
Okay, cool. We've had a few conversations, and I'm getting much closer to understanding this. It's a big topic, but it's a very, very exciting topic. So let's wrap it up there. But I do want to mention both these guys are going to be joining us in St. Martin for our mastermind, our Bitcoin mastermind, and you'll have a chance to interact with them. You're going to be there for about a week or so. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're going to have time for that? Perfect. So you're going to have a great chance to have a chat to them, ask them a bunch of questions. And this could, right here at the conference, many people are talking about Bitcoin 2.0, which really means blockchain 2.0. How are we going to use this blockchain technology over and above Bitcoin? And the thing that these guys are doing here with BitShares is something that's on the tip of everyone's lips, and it's very, very exciting. So please come and check it out. BitShares, what's the website?
BitShares.org.
BitShares.org, or come and see them at the Bitcoin Mastermind in St. Martin, and we'll speak to you soon. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Brent.